Sometimes it's not the moment you fall that breaks you. It's realizing someone you loved pushed you. Millionaire's mistress pushes pregnant wife into a river, but what happens next will leave you speechless. Emily didn't even get a chance to scream before the cold water wrapped around her body like chains. 1 second, she was standing on the muddy edge of the riverbank, heart pounding, breath heavy. The next, Vanessa's perfectly polished hands shoved her hard. Her feet slipped, her body twisted, then splash. She went under, 8 months pregnant. Her swollen belly dragged her down, her arms flailed, but the weight of betrayal hit her faster than the current. Vanessa didn't flinch. Her eyes were blank, like this was just another chore. The river swallowed Emily's cry, pulling her deep into its freezing silence. Her world, once filled with love and lies, shattered in a second. The man she loved had stood by and watched. No one came. No guards, no cameras, nothing. The luxury, the promises, the marriage, it all disappeared into the dark water. Emily's mind screamed louder than her lungs. The baby inside her kicked wildly, like it too was trying to survive. And in that moment, as water filled her mouth, she finally understood. She wasn't just betrayed. She was discarded, erased like trash. And the people she trusted most had done it with smiles on their faces. That same evening, hours before her body hit the water, Emily had leaned in to hug Noah's assistant, Vanessa. The scent hit her instantly. It was her perfume. Not something similar, not a cheap copy. It was hers. The custom blend Noah had given her last Christmas. Her name was even engraved on the bottle. Vanessa wore it like a trophy, a quiet, cruel victory. Emily didn't say anything at the moment. She just stood there frozen while her heart sank. Later, she overheard them whispering. Vanessa and Noah tucked behind a marble pillar. "A clean slate," he said. "No more loose ends," she replied. The words hit like poison. Emily couldn't breathe. This wasn't just cheating, this was a plan. She wasn't losing a husband. She was being erased. Vanessa didn't just steal him. She took everything. The perfume, the love, the life. Emily realized too late, she was the one being replaced. Vanessa had chosen the perfect place, the far edge of the vineyard estate, where the land dipped low and the trees covered everything. There were no cameras, no patrols, just a quiet river flowing endlessly cold and deep. Emily didn't want to follow her there. Something felt off, but she was too confused, too heartbroken, and too trusting. Even then, even after the whispers, she hoped there was a mistake, a reason, an apology, but there was none. Vanessa walked ahead, heels crunching on the dirt. She stopped near the edge and turned around. Her smile was wide, evil. "Let's end this," she said softly. Emily stepped back, but it was too late. Vanessa lunged forward and shoved her with both hands. The world tilted. The river rose. And then, silence. The water took her. The trees stood still. Vanessa wiped her hands on her dress and walked away, like nothing happened. Just another job done. James had seen a lot in life, storms, fights, death, but he never expected to see a woman's body floating down the river that night. He didn't panic. He acted. His old hands, rough from years of fishing, reached into the icy water and pulled her out. She was cold, barely breathing, swollen belly and all. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need a name. He wrapped her in his old coat, carried her up the muddy slope, and laid her gently in his cabin. Hours passed. The fire crackled. Her face was pale, bruised, unrecognizable. She never woke, but her chest moved, faintly, fully. Somewhere far away, on TV screens across the country, news flashed. Tragic suicide. Millionaire's wife found dead in river. Photos of Emily filled the screens, but in that tiny broken-down cabin, she lay alive, unseen. And beside her, James watched silently. No idea he had just saved the most talked-about woman in the country. Back at the vineyard estate, cameras flashed. Noah stood next to Vanessa, their faces full of fake tears. Reporters asked about Emily's mental health, her sadness, her past, and they answered. Like caring people, like family. Vanessa clutched Noah's arm, pretending to cry. She was so fragile, she whispered. Noah nodded, lowering his eyes. The world believed them. People posted tributes, lit candles, shared photos. No one saw the truth. No one knew the push, the perfume, the lies. And as flowers piled up at the estate gate, Noah and Vanessa sipped champagne inside. The world wept. But the killers, they celebrated. Celebrated. Emily opened her eyes slowly. The ceiling was wood. The air smelled like smoke and salt. Her body ached. Her belly was heavy, but she was alive. Her face felt strange, bruised, fallen. She reached up and touched it, flinching. She didn't recognize her reflection in the cracked mirror nearby. And then it hit her, the river, the push, the betrayal. She sat up, fast, pain shooting through her side. No one knew she survived. The world thought she was dead. And maybe that was good. Maybe it was fate. Because if they thought she was gone, then she had time. Time to return. Time for revenge. Emily hacked her old accounts. Her hands shook as she stared at the laptop screen. Her old banking credentials, the ones her late mother had helped her set up, still worked. She hadn't checked those accounts in months. But something in her heart told her to look. When the screen loaded, her breath stopped. The numbers were wrong, too low, way too low. Millions were gone. Her inheritance, her safety net, her mother's legacy disappeared. Emily scrolled through the statements, wire transfers, offshore accounts. A name kept showing up again and again, GR Holdings Limited. She didn't recognize it. Her face went pale. Her money had been drained, slowly, cleverly, and always to that name. She searched deeper. It was a shell company, untraceable, based in a country she'd never even been to. And then came the final blow. One transfer had been made just a day after she was pushed into the river. A huge chunk of the remaining money sent in full. Her stomach dropped. They'd waited until they thought she was dead. Then finished the robbery. This wasn't just theft, this was murder money. She blinked back tears, her hands clenched into fists. The betrayal burned through her chest. Her husband didn't just want her gone. He wanted her erased, along with everything she had. And Vanessa? That snake had smiled in her face while stealing everything from behind her back. But Emily wasn't broken. Not anymore. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of their end. And as she stared at that final transfer, one thing became clear. This ghost company, this fake name, it wasn't just a cover. It was a message. Someone close to her had created it. And she would find out who. Emily's eyes were heavy, but her rage kept her wide awake. She dug through old files, hard copies she had secretly kept hidden, even from Noah. In a dusty envelope marked prenup, she found what she thought was the original agreement. She scanned it line by line, comparing it to the digital copy she had recently pulled from her lawyer's archive. Her hands froze. The papers didn't match. The clause that protected her inheritance? Gone. The agreement she had signed clearly stated her assets were safe, but the version filed in court? It had been edited. Her signature sat at the bottom, perfect. But she never signed that version. Her throat tightened. She'd been tricked. Not just betrayed, but legally destroyed. Her own husband had forged her trust into a weapon, and someone helped him do it. It had to be Vanessa. She knew too much. Moved too fast. Emily remembered her hovering at meetings, always pretending to help, always offering to fix things. What a joke. Vanessa wasn't helping. She was erasing. Noah had used love to distract her while quietly stealing everything she owned, and no one stopped him. Not her lawyer, not her family, not even the firm that was supposed to protect her rights. She was alone. But now, her eyes weren't closed anymore. He saw it all. The lies were in ink. The fraud had a paper trail. And once again, Noah waited until he was too weak to fight back, or so he thought. Emily didn't care about the money anymore. She cared about justice, about revenge. And now she knew. Every step had been planned. Every moment of kindness was fake. And the next time they saw her, they wouldn't see the weak wife they tried to bury. They'd see the storm coming for them. Emily thought she knew who she married, but the deeper she dug, the more she realized she never really knew him at all. The name, Noah Gray, wasn't just a lie. It was a costume. His birth certificate didn't match. His school records were faked. His business history had gaps that couldn't be explained. She paid a private investigator in cash. Someone she trusted. Someone who owed her mother a favor. Within days, the truth came crashing down. Noah Gray didn't exist. His real name was Eric Lawson. He had changed identities before marrying her, hiding years of debt, lawsuits, and a ruined reputation. He hadn't built Gray Industries. He had stolen it, piece by piece, through fraud and blackmail. And worst of all, he had no legal claim to the Gray name or the fortune tied to it. That name belonged to her child, her baby, the true bloodline. Emily felt like her world was spinning. She wasn't married to a powerful millionaire. She was married to a liar. A thief who had used her name to climb higher. Everything he owned, cars, houses, shares, was built on lies in her bloodline. And now she understood why he wanted her gone, why he let Vanessa push her into that river. Because Emily had the baby, and if the baby lived, the truth would come out. The company wouldn't go to Noah, it would go to the real heir, the one growing inside her. Her hands touched her belly. She whispered a silent promise. He tried to erase her, to keep his stolen crown, but now she held the key to expose him. And she wasn't scared anymore. She was ready to show the world who the real Grey was. And when she did, he wouldn't just lose the fortune, he'd lose everything. Emily stood on a rooftop, the city glowing below her. For weeks she had moved in silence, hiding, watching, gathering pieces. But tonight something changed. He wasn't the one hiding anymore. They were, with every lie exposed, every secret cracked open. Noah and Vanessa were starting to panic. She could see it. In the way their lawyers scrambled, in how the media whispered, in how the board members of Grey Industries were starting to doubt the man at the top. Emily smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was sharp, cold, and full of power. For the first time she felt the shift. She wasn't the broken woman left to drown. She was the storm walking straight into their world, and she was done playing nice. Her child carried the real legacy, not the one Noah stole. That baby was born of truth, not lies. And Emily was going to fight for it with everything she had. No more pity, no more hiding. She would take back what was hers, with proof, with people, with power. James, her one true ally, had started helping her quietly. Together they mapped out the weak spots in the empire. The parts Vanessa controlled, the parts built on fake documents, stolen names, and empty promises. Every step forward felt like fire burning through her veins. She was rising. They were running. And she wanted them to feel the fear they forced on her. She wanted them to feel hunted. Because Emily wasn't the victim. Not anymore. She was the reckoning. And when she walked back into their world, she wouldn't be asking for forgiveness. She'd be taking back her crown. And they'd know they made the wrong woman their enemy. Emily hadn't expected much. But she had hoped for one thing: loyalty. Her heart still believed in friendship, even after everything. She reached out to the one person she trusted the most, Maya, her best friend since college, her bridesmaid, her secret keeper, the one who had held her hair when she was sick, the one who cried at her wedding. But what Emily found broke her in a way even the river hadn't. Maya answered the call, her voice flat, cold, her words rehearsed. Then Emily saw it, Vanessa's shadow moving behind her. She was in Noah's mansion, in Vanessa's base. Wearing designer clothes Emily had once picked out. The betrayal slapped harder than anything else. Her best friend had crossed over, sold loyalty for comfort. Emily didn't cry, she just listened. Maya said things like, "You were gone," and "they needed someone to help." But the truth sat heavy between every word. She'd chosen sides, and it wasn't Emily's. Maya had helped, filed paperwork, probably helped erase her name from accounts, from contracts, from everything that mattered. Her silence had been deadly, her hands dirty. Emily hung up without a word. Her fingers shook, her chest burned. It wasn't just about money anymore. This was personal. Vanessa had taken her husband, her home, her future. But now, she'd taken her sister in spirit, and now Emily had no one left, except James. And James, he wasn't just a friend. He was someone with his own past, his own wounds. And now, maybe he was the only one left who truly wanted justice. With every bridge burned, Emily only got stronger. She wasn't building a comeback. She was building revenge, and Maya would one day regret standing on the wrong side. Emily couldn't breathe when she saw the headline, "Noah Grey, engaged to Vanessa Monroe." The article said the wedding was set for 2 weeks from now. It made no sense, unless it did. Unless this wedding wasn't about love, it was about locking in the fraud before the truth came out. If Noah married Vanessa, it would be harder to unravel the lies, harder to expose what he stole. The world would see them as the power couple, the perfect love story. And Emily, she'd just be a ghost, a story they had erased, but she wasn't going to let that happen. Not now. Not ever. She looked at her swollen belly in the mirror. That child was the real Grey, the real future. And Noah was rushing to crown Vanessa before the world could find out. It wasn't love. It was panic, fear, desperation. Because he knew Emily was alive. He just didn't know where or what she had. But she had enough. 2 weeks. That was time. Time to burn it all down. James brought more evidence, documents, voice recordings, a list of board members who still remembered her, who still respected her father. They would help if they knew the truth. The countdown had begun. The wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a deadline. If she didn't move now, everything would be sealed. And once it was done, it would be almost impossible to reverse. Her jaw tightened, her fingers pressed against her stomach. She wouldn't let her child's legacy be handed to a fraud. She wouldn't let that woman wear her crown. Emily was going to show up, before the vows, before the kiss, before the end. And she wasn't coming as a guest. She was coming as the fire, and she'd light up everything they tried to bury. James had been a star surgeon once, a name respected in every hospital corridor. His hands had healed countless lives. His reputation was untouchable. But that was before the Greys ruined him. Emily hadn't known how deeply the Greys had shattered his life until he finally confessed to her. His voice was broken when he spoke a raw truth that cut deeper than any wound. "They destroyed me, Emily," James had said, his eyes haunted by the past. "I was one of the best until they made sure I would never work again." The Greys had orchestrated a scandal, a single lie that ended his career overnight, and now he wanted payback. Emily listened, her heart aching as she realized they were both victims in this twisted game. James wasn't just helping her out of goodwill. He was helping because he too wanted to see the Greys fall. Together they would get revenge. And this time, the Greys wouldn't see it coming. Emily walked back into Grey Industries, disguised, determined. She was invisible to everyone. No one recognized the woman who had once been their golden girl. The walls that once felt like home now felt like a prison. But she was stronger now, more calculated. She had a mission, and nothing would stop her. Emily moved through the halls like a shadow, blending in with the corporate world that had once been her life. The evidence she was about to leak would tear apart the empire that had crushed her. She slipped into the boardroom unnoticed and slid the damning files onto the desks of the loyal board members. The betrayal of the Greys ran deeper than anyone knew, and now it would be exposed for all to see. But just as Emily thought she had succeeded, a loud crash interrupted her focus. Vanessa had arrived. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not now. But Vanessa's wild eyes fixed on her, and Emily could feel the storm coming. Vanessa was about to do something drastic. She was about to lose control. Vanessa's anger exploded. She grabbed the nearest reporter by the collar, shoving him backward with terrifying strength. "You think you've seen her?" Vanessa hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "You think you know where she is? What did you see? Tell me." The reporter stumbled, his face turning pale, but he didn't say a word. Vanessa's grip tightened, her nails digging into his flesh, and before anyone could intervene, she threw him to the ground, blood trickling from his lip. The scene was chaotic. Cameras flashed, capturing every moment, and the press began to swarm. It was clear now. Vanessa knew Emily was alive. There was no denying it. As the media buzzed with the breaking story, Noah began to waver. The empire was crumbling. Vanessa's instability was starting to show, and with every violent outburst, she only dug herself deeper into a hole no one would be able to pull her out of. The hidden drone had captured everything. It hovered above, silently recording the moment Emily was pushed. But there was something no one expected to hear. Just before Emily's fall, a voice, cold calculating, spoke through the footage. "Do it now." Noah's voice came through the static, chilling and distant. The drone had caught it all. The moment, the push, and the cruel command that followed. Noah had ordered the fall. It wasn't just Vanessa's doing. Noah had orchestrated the entire thing. The video was proof, undeniable evidence of his betrayal. Emily had been targeted, not just for revenge, but because she posed a threat to their control. The footage would destroy Noah's reputation. But it wasn't just about him. It was about everything the Greys had taken from her. And now she had the evidence to bring them down. Emily thought she was the target. She had always believed that, but she was wrong. It wasn't just about her. It had never been about her. It had always been about her child. The moment she discovered Vanessa's plan, it felt like the ground beneath her feet had vanished. Vanessa wasn't just trying to destroy Emily. No, Vanessa had been after her child, the real heir. Vanessa's plot was more sinister than Emily could have imagined. She had faked her own pregnancy, pretending to carry Noah's child, to steal the power that would come with being the mother of the heir to Gray Industries. But Emily's baby, the one growing inside her, was the true heir. Vanessa wanted to erase that, to eliminate the child before it could be born and claim what was rightfully theirs. Emily's blood ran cold as the truth hit her. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about power, legacy, the destruction of her future. And Vanessa was willing to go to any lengths to make sure her fake pregnancy would be the one that claimed everything. Emily stood still, her body trembling with fury. Tears blurred her vision, but they didn't matter. She wasn't going to break. Not now, not ever. Her child wasn't just hers, it was the future of everything she had ever loved. It was a kingdom, a legacy, and the weapon she needed to destroy the Grays once and for all. She felt the fire inside her burn, brighter, stronger. The rage that had been bubbling beneath the surface erupted, and for the first time since she had been betrayed, Emily was ready to fight, with everything she had. The war had just begun, and she wasn't going to let Vanessa or anyone take her child from her. She would do whatever it took to protect the future. She had already lost too much. The Grays had no idea what was coming, but they would soon. No one touched her child, no one. The game had changed. The wedding ceremony of Noah and Vanessa was halted in its tracks. The vows, the promises, the fairy tale atmosphere, all came to a sudden, screeching stop. The guests gasped. The camera lights flickered as a face, radiant and full of life, appeared on the giant screen above them. Alive. The world had believed her dead. An accident, a tragedy. But there she stood. Her beauty, untouched. Her strength, unmatched. She wasn't just alive, she was a force. The gasps turned to murmurs, then to silence, and then to chaos. As the world realized that the woman they thought was gone had come back with a vengeance. The truth was undeniable. Emily was here, and everything they tried to bury was about to be exposed. Noah froze, his face drained of color as the camera zoomed in on him. Vanessa's smug smile faltered for the first time. Her eyes darted around the room, trying to find an escape. Emily stood at the front of the room, a perfect picture of strength. Her message wasn't just for them, it was for the world. The lies are over, her voice echoed through the speakers, cutting through the stunned silence. She had been underestimated, written off. But now she was more powerful than anyone could have imagined. The world was about to see a side of Emily no one had ever known. Not just a woman scorned, but a woman who would never be silenced. And the game had just begun. The room fell dead silent when the video played. The camera captured everything. Vanessa, her face twisted with cold satisfaction, pushing Emily into the raging river. The world watched, horrified, as Emily's pregnant body disappeared beneath the water. The gasp swept through the room, but it was nothing compared to the shock that followed. Then came the real dagger. Noah's voice. "Do it now," he urged. The command, clear and unmistakable. His voice, once calm and authoritative, now sounded like a death sentence, sealing their fate forever. The footage spread like wildfire. Every person in the room, every viewer watching at home, heard him. Noah had known. He had been part of it. His betrayal was far deeper than anyone could have imagined. This wasn't just a tragedy anymore. It was cold-blooded murder. And the truth rang through the air louder than any denial ever could. Emily hadn't just been thrown away. She'd been discarded by the very people who had promised to protect her. Vanessa was no longer just a mistress, she was a murderer, a pawn in a game she didn't even understand. The Grays had underestimated Emily, thinking she'd be gone for good. But now, their empire, their carefully constructed world of lies, was burning to the ground. Emily's voice rang out once more, a simple, quiet declaration that would change everything. This is just the beginning. Emily stepped into the chaos she had created. Vanessa was a crumpled mess on the floor, her face pale and tear-streaked. The weight of her own actions had broken her. But it was too late for regrets now. Noah bolted, his fear evident as he tried to flee the scene, but the doors were locked, the exits sealed. There was nowhere for him to go. Emily stood in the center of the room, her eyes cold, calculating. "You planned my funeral," she whispered, her voice laced with venom. "But I came back with fire." There was no emotion in her words, just a steady, unwavering truth. She had been betrayed, left for dead, but now she was here, and they would pay. The room grew heavy with the weight of their guilt. Noah's eyes darted from Emily to the locked door, panic creeping into his veins. He knew he was trapped. Vanessa, the woman who had once smiled in triumph, now shuddered with fear. She had underestimated the woman she had thrown into the river. The world had underestimated her. Emily wasn't just here for revenge. She was here to take everything back. "None of you are getting out," she said softly. "Not until you understand what it means to destroy me." The finality in her voice was chilling. The game had changed, and Noah, Vanessa, and everyone in the room were now her pawns. They had played their final card, and Emily was holding all the aces. The room buzzed with tension as Emily revealed what she had been holding all along. Documents, proof of their corruption, betrayal, and the near-fatal crime they had committed. She laid it all out in front of the board members. Emily didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She didn't just want revenge. She wanted control. She wanted them to know they had no power anymore. They were nothing. Emily's cold gaze swept over the room as she held up the files. "You can choose," she said, her tone icy and precise. "Loyalty to your true queen or destruction. This empire is mine now. You can either stand with me or I will bury you all." The board members exchanged nervous glances, some shaking, others clearly terrified. The once feared Greys were nothing more than a house of cards, and Emily was the storm that would blow it all down. She wasn't asking for power, she was taking it. She was executing her plan, and there was no room for negotiation. Vanessa, still on the floor, tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. Her hands were shaking. She had no voice anymore. Noah, standing in the corner, was visibly sweating, his mind racing for an escape. But there was none. The walls were closing in, and with every passing second, Emily was tightening her grip. She didn't beg for power, she simply took it, and no one in the room could stop her. Emily's final move was flawless. Vanessa, shackled and trembling, was dragged away from the room, her face pale and full of regret. Noah was cornered, trapped by his own cowardice. But Emily, she stood tall, unshaken. The empire, the one they had tried to steal from her, was now hers. She took the throne. Not with screams, not with bloodshed. There were no dramatic fights, no desperate pleas. It was surgical. With a few words, she erased the Grey legacy. Their name, their hold on everything. The board had no choice but to bow to her. Their loyalty now a matter of survival. They had seen her power. They had seen the truth. And no one dared to stand against her. Emily turned her eyes cold, her grip firm on the future she had reclaimed. "This is my child's future," she said, her voice strong, "and I will never let anyone take it from me again." She walked away, leaving the Greys to rot in their own lies. She didn't need to look back. She had won. The empire was hers. The throne was hers. And the world was at her feet. No blood, no screams, just one flawless queen reclaiming her crown. Emily walked back into the boardroom, an ocean of power and greed. The place where they had once thrown her out, humiliated her, and thought they had killed her spirit. This time, there was no screaming, no shouting. She was no longer begging for a seat at the table. This time, she was buying the entire table. Every person who had sworn loyalty to Noah and Vanessa was fired on the spot. One by one, they were escorted out as Emily's cold gaze watched them leave, without a word. The contracts they had signed with Vanessa, the deals made behind closed doors, gone in an instant. The media had dubbed her the Ice Widow, and she didn't correct them. They didn't understand the depth of her power, nor did they know the kindness that lay beneath it. Emily had rebuilt her life from the ashes of betrayal and destruction, and now she was turning the tables. Her empire was built on the ruins of Grey Industries. But she wasn't doing it alone. She partnered with James, who had become her unwavering support. Together, they launched a charity hospital, funded by the money that once tried to kill her. It was her silent vengeance. But as her empire rose, a new fear took root. She had everything now, the wealth, the power, the control. But was she becoming just like them? Was she slowly losing herself to the same darkness she had fought against? She shook the thought away. There was no time for doubt. Not now. Not when her enemies were still out there plotting. Her lawyer walked into the room, carrying the weight of the final bombshell. "Vanessa is about to face trial," he said. And before Emily could respond, he handed her the list of witnesses. Her name was at the top. Emily's expression remained unreadable, but inside, something shifted. It wasn't over. it was only just beginning. Vanessa entered the courtroom with a smirk. She was the woman who had once ruled the city. Her high heels clicked against the cold marble floor, a sound that had once sent shivers down the spine of anyone who crossed her. But today, her steps were slower, heavier. The smug look she wore was not as confident as it once was. She took her seat at the defendant's table, flicking her hair back as if she were still in control. But the moment the evidence dropped, everything changed. Emails, financial leaks, videos. The room went dead silent as the damning footage of her confession was shown on the screen. The video didn't lie. Vanessa had pushed Emily into that river. She had tried to end her life. The courtroom buzzed with shock and disbelief. Vanessa's face drained of color as the truth hit harder than any punch. She tried to sit taller, but the evidence was overwhelming. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a national disgrace. The press had already started calling it the betrayal of the century. And Vanessa's once perfect world began to crumble. Her smugness disappeared. Her parents disowned her. Her former friends turned their backs. The world she had built on lies and manipulation had burned to the ground. In one swift moment, the court sentenced her to 25 years in prison. No bail, no chance of escape. As they led her away in cuffs, Vanessa's eyes met the crowd one last time. Her crown of power had turned to chains, and no one would ever hear her lies again. She was alone. Alone in a world that had once belonged to her. Noah sat in the courtroom, his face gaunt, his shoulders slumped, as if the weight of the world had crushed him. He had been the king of the empire, a man who once ruled everything with a smile and a flick of his hand. But today, he was broken. His once famous charm had faded, replaced by a hollow, defeated man. When the judge offered him a deal, to confess everything, surrender all assets and testify against Vanessa in exchange for a reduced sentence, Noah didn't hesitate. He signed the papers quickly, without a second thought. He had nothing left. No empire, no fortune, no friends. His life was crumbling before his eyes, and the only thing that could save him was throwing Vanessa under the bus. So he did. He exposed every secret, every lie, every dark corner of their twisted relationship. In exchange for his confession, Noah was sentenced to just 12 years in prison, a light sentence, considering the damage he had caused. But the price he paid was everything he had built. His money, his name, his legacy, gone. Behind bars he was nothing. He had nothing, not even his own pride. And when he learned that Emily had bought the gray building, the place he had once reigned over, something inside him snapped. It was the final blow to a man already broken beyond repair. Months passed, and Emily rebuilt, not just her empire, but herself. The scars of betrayal were still there, but they no longer controlled her. The woman who had once been lost and broken now stood tall, stronger than ever. And then she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. She was perfect in every way, a symbol of hope and renewal. Emily looked at her daughter and knew that this child would not be raised in the darkness of the past. There would be no gold cages, no shadows of betrayal. Luna would be raised with love, with warmth, and with a future untouched by greed and cruelty. Emily had come far. James was by her side, his quiet presence offering the peace she had longed for. He wasn't replacing Noah. He didn't need to. He was something far more important. A partner, a friend, and a father figure to Luna. The old world of lies and power had crumbled, and in its place, a new world was beginning to take shape. But even as Emily held her daughter in her arms, there was a part of her that couldn't let go of the past. The river. The moment she had nearly drowned. The betrayal still haunted her dreams, and every night she would close her eyes and wonder, would she ever truly be free of it? Emily stood at the riverbank, the place where it all began, the place where they had tried to end her. She held Luna close, the soft wind brushing against her face as if the earth itself remembered what had happened here. She could still hear the echoes of the past, the screams, the betrayal, the cold water that had tried to claim her. But now she was different. The woman who had once been drowned in sorrow and despair was now standing tall, holding life in her arms. She looked down at Luna, her daughter's innocent face staring back at her. She had survived, she had fought, and now she was free. The wind seemed to whisper to her, as if the river itself was asking, how does it feel to rise again? Emily smiled softly, her gaze unwavering. She whispered to the wind, you tried to end me, but you only made me eternal. Dear friend, there are moments in life when we are pushed to the edge, not just of rivers, but of ourselves. When betrayal cuts deeper than any blade, and the people we trusted the most become the ones who try to drown us. But as the Stoics remind us, what stands in the way becomes the way. Pain is not the end. It is the beginning of clarity, of strength, of becoming. Emily's story is more than revenge. It's a resurrection. A reminder that healing isn't the absence of scars, but the quiet courage to rise with them. She didn't just survive the storm, she became it. And in holding her daughter, she held not just a future, but proof that even from the deepest darkness, we can choose to shine. You may be hurt, broken, betrayed, but never forget, your story isn't over. Sometimes the fall is just the start of your rise. If this story moved you, we'd be honored if you'd like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more stories that matter, stories that heal, inspire, and remind us that we are never alone.